Welcome to the Jeremy Mullins podcast, where we take a deep dive into different educational topics to help you optimize your life. I'm Jeremy, your host, and I'm here tonight. I'm not going to say it with the wiener dog in Reno and Brenton.
He's 31 pounds now, not 32. We're doing well.
Oh, he's dropped a pound?
He dropped a
He's
pound.
taking the nutrition advice to heart.
And by his advice, I mean I just don't force feed him anymore.
So, for those that are watching on YouTube, you can see what we're talking about. For those that are just listening, you're driving in your car, you're going for a walk, you're going for a run. Jeff has his wiener dog that's 31 pounds, and he is a little chunker.
It happens.
But it's okay. It reminds me of having the bulldogs, man. They do not, and I think the wiener dogs are the same way. Like, they don't have a shut off for food, right? Like,
No, he whines 24/7. He wants food. He'll eat himself to death.
Yes.
Was that meatball?
So meatball, like same way with English bulldogs, they would just eat and eat and eat. And it's so different with the German Shepherd because we'll put her food out and like it'll sit there half the day, and it's like, you okay? So I guess certain, and you learn this, I guess certain dogs don't have that like quote unquote shut off. They'll just eat and eat and eat, and then some kind of naturally are able to like manage their food intake. So I would classify myself probably as a bulldog or a wiener dog because, like, there's certain foods you put in, I'm just going to continue to eat, right?
Hey,
like,
I will give you props. This morning, you had a lot of food and you didn't eat it all.
Thank you. I didn't know what I wanted. Everything looked good.
It was good.
I had potatoes. I had eggs. What else did I have? They didn't have any bacon. I had sausage.
Peanut butter.
And then I got peanut butter and bananas. And then I got peanut butter and oatmeal with nuts on it. And I did good. I had the eggs, a little bit of the potatoes, saved the banana and the peanut butter for more of like a pre-lunch today, which helped me not overeat at lunch.
Yep.
Yeah. So hey, it was a good day when it comes to nutrition.
Having a pre-lunch, how does that help you not overeat for lunch?
Well, because it's brunch.
It's like an appetizer,
Wouldn't it technically, equal out?
It was peanut butter.
I mean, it's what some people call a snack. We just call it a second meal or a pre-meal. It's an appetizer.
Yeah.
Just picture like 5 packets of peanut butter and a whole banana is already 450 calories. So,
well, it is what, probably 2? Those are probably a tablespoon a piece.
I think those are a tablespoon a piece because it's pre-measured. Yeah,
so two tablespoons and a banana. I mean, you're talking 300 calories.
But lunch was basically lunch was it wasn't quinoa, it was
couscous.
Couscous.
One of my favorites.
So it's probably half a thing of couscous and then 9 to 10 ounces of chicken breast.
Can you say that again?
No, my best couscous.
Couscous. We had lemon grilled chicken.
Sounded like Gronk on Emperor's New Groove.
Listen, I'm from McDowell County, West Virginia. Okay, we had pinto beans and potatoes.
Couscous wasn't even a thing. You didn't even know that.
Where did you put that? Like quinoa was not a thing.
I just found out refried beans was mashed pinto beans like last week.
All right, interesting.
Not for
just because I'm a dietitian, I can't pronounce all these foods that's out there or know what they are. All right,
it's fair enough.
So
proteins, fats, and carbohydrates.
Yes, and how to manipulate them and produce results. Let's just stick in that lane. Speaking of lanes, we are on our second episode. Hopefully we can get through the entire sleep readiness tonight, which is kind of neat because we've talked about this. And if you're new to the show, both Reno and Abshire and myself, we're all three in the Kentucky Army National Guard, and we've worked within our H2F program. And what's neat, we've talked about this on the backside of building our course. We're like, man, we need to put more sleep education in. It's really just simple and to the point and direct. But even here in reading the FM-22, like it's a short chapter.
It's like, very short.
I mean, it is like, hey, here is your stages of sleep. Here's how much you need. Here's your sleep hygiene. Here's some ways that you can, combat like schedules and some ideas. And that's kind of it. Mm-hmm. Right. So, this is going to be one more episode and we'll wrap up the sleep. But as I was talking about in the other episode, this is the one thing that I think most people can do to improve their overall wellness. And, I didn't mention this last time, but I see this a lot in my fat loss clients that like if nutrition's pretty good and on point and exercise is good and they're not like producing results, first of all, I start looking at like, okay, is this a hormonal issue? Like, is something going on from that aspect? But a lot of times it comes down to they're just not sleeping good. So they're not recovering. from the workouts. They're not dropping body fat because cortisol levels have increased, which could increase the insulin sensitivity. So they're not losing the belly fat. Like sleep matters. And if it's the one thing that we could put into that capsule, and sell, I would. Because then I'd be living on some island somewhere.
I think there'd be a lot of people living on an island. So
You could live on Greenland soon.
Maybe. We saw a funny meme on that, but we won't go down that rabbit hole. All right. Let's go into it. Before we get into the reading, let's just do our kind of thing that we teach into our courses, like on sleep hygiene, like the big takeaways. So Abshire, what is one of the sleep hygiene that you think is biggest or most important for someone to start as far as getting a good night's rest?
I think there's 3. I'll call it the trifactor or the triangle of sleep is what I typically will teach, and I think that you're going to agree with this. Is you got to get away from electronics. That's almost a must, and I think our recommendation, and typically a lot of people are now recommending nowadays 30 to 45 minutes, maybe an hour at most. 30 minutes at minimum. You got to get off of electronics, TV, cell phones, tablets, laptops, those kind of things. 30 minutes is our minimum threshold. 45 is our recommended. 60 is ideal, right? So getting away from that. Number 2 is you're going to want to decrease the temperature in your body, and there's a handful of ways to do that. Typically, is our easiest one's going to be drop the thermostat if you're able to, right? Now we're talking finances, those kind of things, depending on the time of the year. We're at a hotel room.
Cold.
It's very cold. We've got it at 67.
If they're watching, they can tell us you're in your vest.
Yeah, we've got it at 67, but when it's time to go to bed, it's nice. You're already ready to go. And then third's going to be make it as dark as possible in the room. And I think that's the easiest one.
Yeah.
The easiest one that anyone can do. Biggest takeaway is make the room as dark as possible and get rid of every light possible that you can in the room. And that's going to be a starting point. Temperature is going to be number 2 because that's fairly easy. And then 3 is going to be actually making a habit and try and get away from the electronics.
Yeah, cool dark room and electronics. I think that's a great place to start. What we'll do here, it's a little later. Reno, you're Eastern time, so it's going to be 9 o'clock there, right? Yeah, so you're 9 o'clock, you're going to be 8 o'clock. So after this session, what we'll probably do is dim the lights. I just took my magnesium and my creatine before this episode, right? So I've already got that in there. So we'll dim the lights, and then hopefully be asleep by 9 o'clock, right? So, half hour of being off electronics, just a half hour, everything being dim, boom, everything goes dark. It's already, as you mentioned, 67 degrees, you're nice, cool, get an optimal night rest, right? And, with the electronics, I would say this, like the 30, 45 minutes, that is the minimum. I would like to see that be, an hour or so, that we're off the electronics, at night, right? And having that cool, dark room. Now, there's going to be some other stuff like we talked about in another episode. Make sure that you're trying to go to bed within the same 60 to 90 minutes. Your routine's the same. Both going to bed and getting up. Those could all help. And we'll talk about some other things in here, like cutting out caffeine earlier in the day and stuff that you can help from that. So, do you want to add any to that, or you want to roll on to the reading?
No, those are all good.
Awesome. So let's get into promoting healthy sleep from the FM-22 Sleep Readiness chapter. Good sleep is essential for optimal performance and readiness. Factors to consider when optimizing sleep duration and the continuous sleep include the sleep environment, a pre-sleep routine, the sleep schedule that confirms as closely as possible to the brain's natural circadian rhythm, right? So we're going to touch on that. Sleep environment, cool and dark, right? Pre-sleep routine can definitely be a lot of different things.
Yes.
I think for, myself, like it starts with me taking magnesium and creatine, which now I fix his and hers. I've learned that I need to fix his and hers. So I fix our creatine and magnesium. Then I kind of start going through the routine of, checking the doors, make sure they're locked, right? Making sure that the baby's, lunchbox is set out. So like all that other stuff that goes into, hey, this needs to be accomplished before bedtime. So it kind of starts, what is my routine? Dim all the lights in the house. Sometimes I've already showered before this. Sometimes I have to shower afterwards. But that's kind of like my routine at night. I have that handful or 4 or 5 things, but it all starts with me making the magnesium and the creatine. That kind of triggers my sleep routine.
And I think that's funny that you mentioned doing all these extra things because I do the same thing. I check every door that we have,
Yep.
make sure that it's all locked, the alarm's on. And it's even funny. I brush my teeth after I've completed that, checking on the kids and doing those kind of things, make sure everything's ready for tomorrow. I don't turn on any lights. My wife actually tries to turn on the lights. She's like, "Why are you brushing your teeth in the dark?" I'm over here like looking in the window, trying to get the toothpaste on my toothbrush to make sure it's accurate. She's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm trying not to turn the lights on because I don't want any
No,
light."
I don't go that far. We have the lights like underneath the cabinets.
Nope, all lights are
Okay,
gone.
I
They're
got it.
all
I
gone.
like it.
They are all gone.
That's
That
re-
way, that
that's
no
reason,
lights at all.
that's the reason you have the best sleep out of all three of us.
This
So
is true. Again, I don't know if you noticed in the last episode, we take sleep very seriously at my household.
sleep environment, sleep duration, and continuous sleep are optimized in environments that are quiet, dark, and maintain a comfortable ambient temperature. They use a fancy term, ambient.
Really, what works for you, but can you drop the temperature by one?
Correct.
Can you drop your body temperature?
Some individuals believe that they sleep better with music or television on, and they can sleep anywhere. The ambient noise does not bother them. Research clearly shows this is not the case. Soldiers do not get a good night's sleep on a cot in a tactical operations center. Generally, when you think that you're getting good sleep there, like it's because you're just so tired.
They're so
Yes, you're so tired you go to
tired
sleep.
that it doesn't matter. Yes.
The other thing I see with a lot of people I work with is like, well, Jeremy, sleep with the TV on. Remember, your body is meant to get up when it sees light, and you have light sensors in your body. That's how we produce our vitamin D, right? Sunlight, and your body produces vitamin D because you have these light receptors that are in your skin. So even when the television is on, it might not wake you up, but it's going to keep you out of that deep sleep and that REM sleep stage. So that's where you're getting just light sleep, right? You're asleep 100%. So having the TV on is not going to wake you up. It's going to prevent you from getting into those recovery stages. So making sure that, once again, completely dark room is optimal, for that environment. Although sleepers are not aware of, environmental sounds can cause brief arousals, and spending time out of the deep and the REM sleep. So that's what we're talking about, like hearing something or lights are on. You might not wake you up. You're just not getting that quality of sleep. Likewise, bright lights, excessive hot or cold environments can disrupt continuous sleep and the quality of sleep. So I think of that as like if you ever went camping in the summer and it's really hot, it's really hard to sleep.
Yep.
Vice versa, if you go camping and it's super cold, it's tough to sleep unless you have like the right gear. And then you're cold, you sleep really good because once again, it's that slight cooler temperature, allowing the body temperature to drop, getting into your deep sleep.
And I think that you bring up a great point, especially with cold temperature. There's a very fine line of your body temperature dropping and it being too cold.
Yes.
Because then your body will wake up.
Yeah.
If your, say, temperature is normally at 70 degrees, you listen to this and you're like, hey, they said that we need to drop the temperature, and you drop it to 65. That may be a little drastic.
Yeah, I would start with small, increments in the dropping. And then once again, for most of us, what does your significant other want, right?
Yes.
Don't just go and drop that thermostat because you might be waking up for other reasons.
The good thing is, I bought my wife, Santa brought the wife I think it was from us. It was from us and the boys.
I was about to say, you shouldn't bring your wife anything.
She got a heated blanket for Christmas. It was great because we could drop the temperature a little bit more, especially right now. It's already 5 degrees outside. You don't got to drop the house temperature too much. Just maintain it at that point.
All right, pre-sleep routine. Sleep is, or stress is incapable with sleep. Pre-sleep routines that promote winding down, such as listening to music, reading, taking a warm bath or shower 36 minutes prior to bedtime, tend to facilitate transition to sleep. And I know a lot of people say, we'll take cold showers so that helps drop the body temperature. But generally, if you drop your temperature in your house, you take a warm shower, you get out into the cool temperature, the body drops anyway. So if you like to take a warm shower and it feels good to you and it winds you down, take a warm shower. It doesn't have to be a cold shower, right? I've seen that a lot, like online, do cold showers, before bed. You don't have to, because once again, you drop that temperature, take the warm shower, that relaxes you, get into the cooler, that body temperature will drop.
What I'd like to caveat off of that is you've got to test this out, right? Each individual is a little bit different.
Yes.
You don't want to say you can't drop the temperature in the house, right? But you know that a cold temperature is going to be good to drop your body temperature. But maybe you have something very important the next day. It may actually wake you up and energize you to where you're not able to go to sleep. So don't test this on a day that you have something very important the next day, or you need to get some sleep, right? However, on the flip side of that, it's saying that we need a warm shower. This goes back to us talking about a deep sleep. In order for your body to recover and get into those deep sleep, you've got to have some blood flow, and warming the body helps the blood flow manipulate itself to be able to recover those pieces. So there's two different ways to look at that. And it really goes up to the individual and the listener, is what works for you. Maybe you need to try a few things out. Maybe you had a hard workout, that you need some more deep sleep. So maybe a warm shower is going to work for you. Or maybe you're not able to drop your body temperature. So maybe taking a cold shower and then going to bed is going to work for you.
Well, and I think a key word there was soothing music, because what might be soothing to me might not be soothing to someone else. And the other thing is like, what are you reading?
Yep.
And what I mean by that is like, are you reading a war book? Are you reading something that's getting you fired up? Like those are all
Heart
things.
rate's rolling.
Yeah, those are all things to take into consideration too. Like everybody's pre-sleep routine is going to look a little bit different. Find out what works for you. And as we mentioned on the other podcast, this is where I do recommend like the Whoop, or something you can really measure and track this sleep routine and see what is working for yourself. A couple of things that's, in here it says, don't do activities such as watching television, playing video games, Fortnite, as Reno would say, chatting online, and similar interesting or engaging activities tend to arouse the brain and therefore delay sleep onset. These activities reduce the amount of sleep attained and should be avoided during pre-sleep and wind down periods. Tobacco product is not useful. And I think, smoking rates have went down a lot, but I think it's still, important to talk about here. Stimulant nicotine tells the body to get active while it increases heart rate and alertness. So something to take into consideration there for your pre-sleep routine.
One, I think that, again, this goes back to the individual, right? Has there been a habitual smoker for 20, 30, 40, 50 plus years at this point? And maybe they smoke before they go to bed and they're able to get a good night's sleep. Their body is adapted to that. However, chances are that individual probably doesn't have a Whoop, and we're not tracking it efficiently. They may still be sleeping that 7 to 9 hours, or we're not getting enough deep REM because the nicotine is increasing the heart rate and everything else. So it'd be something to just look out for yourself.
And not in here, but I would add magnesium into the nighttime routine. I think magnesium is a supplement that everyone can benefit from. And magnesium that I do recommend is a mixture of magnesium. So there are multiple different magnesiums. They all kind of have different benefits. But, one type of the magnesium, for example, is believed to cross the blood-brain barrier, therefore getting to the brain and have health benefits when it comes to brain health. And also cardiovascular health, also helps the muscles relax. So magnesium is something I recommend to take, roughly 400 milligrams. And once again, it's going to be different for each person at night, but I like it for aiding in the sleep abilities. And First Form has a magnesium that does have different mixtures in there. So that's one thing I would tell people, to look at what, supplement you are using and make sure there is a mixture to get the whole benefits of magnesium when it comes to brain, heart, and sleep. So just something I would add to the sleep routine from that standpoint. All right, so that's kind of like, if we talk about sleep hygiene, those are the things we want you to change. And notice, like, other than purchasing a supplement there, all that's behavioral change. None of that is going to cost you a thing, right? Now, can you do some stuff like weighted blankets, maybe a fancy bed that cools itself? Like, yes, you could go try those different things, but don't lead with that. Don't lead with the $2,000 mattress that cools itself, to cool you down during the night. If you're going to stay on your phone and watch TV, until you go to bed, right? So, work on these sleep hygiene techniques first, then look at some of this other stuff, whether it be what type of music you're playing with the white noise. I know there's people like, well, what about this wave of music or that wave of music? I'm like, I don't know. I'm not that well versed in white wave.
Well, I think that, and I'm glad you brought that up, because having a newborn, I wouldn't say but we've really dove into some of the needs, and we've always had a sound machine for all three of our kids, and really diving into the psychological piece and some of the sleep studies is white noise for infants and youth. When the brain is developing, white noise is actually not allowing them to get into REM sleep. And now we're not going to put a Whoop on my 6-month-old to test.
Wrap it around.
But that would be really cool. That might be a test that we will do. However, we have not done that with any of our children, and I don't think this has been a good study, but most people that have done studies on sleep with children and adolescents is that white noise is actually prolonged them from getting into that cycle for a long period of time, where brown and purple noise has actually been more soothing for that. However, it goes back to the individual, and especially these listeners. Obviously, we're not speaking to 6 months old at this point, but picking what works for you. And if you're able to get a Whoop or a Garmin, whatever works for you, right? And you're able to test that theory out, you just got to find what works for you in that point.
Whatever mine was on last night, it seemed to work because it was almost 3 hours of good sleep.
Yes. I mean, that's where, with Whoop, we already talked about it.
It was like rainstorm or something. I don't know.
I wish you had something on. I joked.
Put on rainstorm last night.
So. But I think that just finding what works for you and just some kind of constant noise is going to help. However, on the flip side of that, back in the day growing up, my entire family, we kept the TV on. So what did I do when I was a kid? Is I kept the TV on. Once I was little, it was a habit, and I slept.
Yeah.
However, if we were able to go back 20 plus years and track what my sleep looked like, I may still slept 8 to 10 hours, but was I getting an optimal amount? Probably not. And then when I met my wife, she was like, "We don't do that." And I was like, "What do you mean we don't do that?"
So
now we don't sleep with the TV on anymore. And it's great. And now I'm in this wellness realm, and it all works out perfectly. We're able to coach, hey, don't keep the TV on at night.
Reno, I feel like a lot of things in Abshar's life happen like that. Claire said, "We don't do that." And he's like, "Okay."
It's funny because Shelby's the same way. She's like sleep mask, dark room. She'll like lock the bedroom door. It's like we're in the house behind all these locked doors, but you're gonna lock your own door. And then so I get it. It's
I'm gonna go ahead and throw it out there that my life is a lot better because of my wife. And my health is probably a lot better as well.
I will live longer because of me. Sometimes I'm terrible about it, but the more she forces me to do things, I will definitely live longer because of these habit changes. Because I play the music, I stay up late playing the games. I'll fall asleep to the TV and wake up in the morning confused.
And I think a lot of that, guys, is you get to look at the age that you met your wife, right? And so I think a lot of that is like, if we broke it down into age groups, what are people doing at certain ages, right? They're staying up playing video games, they're staying up late, in your teens and your 20s, so I think a lot of that is just the timing factor, but a lot of it is, like you said, just knowledge, because you may grew up in a culture that kept the TV on, and that was natural, from that standpoint. So all that, look at your environment, look at your pre-sleep routine, look at your sleep hygiene to increase sleep. Okay. A couple of things that we're going to go through now is talking about, if you do have to work shift work, what can you do? Some other things on when to cut caffeine down, when to cut alcohol out, those types of things that we've learned, over the course of time. So with shift work, the human brain is biologically hardwired, once again, to be alert during the daylight hours and asleep during the nighttime hours. Some people really struggle with sleep with shift changes, right? There's some people that really struggle with it. Because of this, poor quality sleep from night shift is going to happen. And if you are on night shift, I would say definitely try to, think about these sleep hygiene that we talked about. Get the completely darked out curtains.
I guess we haven't really mentioned how to do that, but blackout curtains is what you're going to want. You want typically a darker color of those blackout curtains. And I know feng shui is a big thing. However, getting a light blackout curtain is not blackout.
Yeah.
We've done that. We've tried it. You're going to need a dark colored curtain that is also blackout, which has almost multiple layers. That's going to ensure that sunlight does not come through.
100%. And then I'm talking about put duct tape over any lights that might be on, like a smoke alarm, carbon monoxide alarm, turn your alarm clock upside down, like do all those things where it's truly like, if you walk into your bedroom and you just turn the lights off and you put your hand in front of your face, you can't see it.
Yep. Now, and I think that's a really great point. And I know we talked about babies and those kind of things and monitors. And so we have a monitor in our bedroom. However, before we go to bed, we put something over it and it covers that light. So all we have is the sound from their sound machines coming through to ours. So we're multi-purposing, being efficient. We're using their sound machines for our sound machines.
Saving on power and everything.
Exactly.
I put a sound machine in my neighbor's house with their newborn to hear their.
It reminds me of, like, we forgot to turn the volume on one night, and it reminds me of the little the social media where it's like, I called for help.
Where were you?
Not a F you,
Yep.
not anything. Felt bad. It was like, maybe she slept through the night. No, we forgot to turn it on. It happens. Yeah, a couple of things I do want to mention here, and it's this is unfortunate. It gets into some stuff, but individuals associated with frequent shift work, have higher risk of weight gain, increased risk of diabetes, fatty liver disease, and cardiovascular disease. So it is in the stats, and it's shown like if you have to go on shift work and you're not getting good sleep, that you're at increased risk for that stuff. And I would argue you're at increased risk for all the things I just mentioned: the diabetes, the fatty liver, cardiovascular disease. All three of those are related to insulin resistance. So when you're not getting enough sleep, you're going to have an increase in your cortisol levels, and it's going to cause you to be insulin resistant, just like a diabetic would. Okay. And there's some things that we can do, for that, like put carbohydrate later in the day to help, with that if you're missing out on sleep. But I guess that's some education for a different episode, or if you're working with me, we can have those conversations. But sleep is going to impede fat loss and going to cause some negative issues when you're not getting enough of it. Okay. A couple other things that think about just with sleep. We talked about it earlier with alcohol. Try to have alcohol earlier in the day. Now, once again, guys, do not tag me on social media and say, well, Jeremy said to day drink that was better and it would not impede my sleep. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying to drink a little earlier if you choose to drink versus having it as a nightcap. Okay. And then once again, after a certain amount of alcohol drinks, it's going to impede your sleep no matter what. Right. So really keeping it in, what I call that 1 to 2 drinks, where you get, the benefit of relaxation, the benefit of, having a drink without having the negative consequences that come with an abundance of alcohol. Okay. Exercise is also something you could, consider, right? Because if you train super hard, high intensity exercise, it may impede your sleep.
Yep.
And we got, from the book, regular moderate physical activity facilitates nighttime sleep. So regular exercise, especially during the day, is going to promote a deeper sleep and more restorative sleep. However, high intensity exercise immediately prior to bedtime can interfere with sleep for some individuals, especially if the exercise is to exhaustion, producing psychological stress and response. So just remember that. Maybe not do a lot of high intensity exercise before bedtime. Now, a walk around your neighborhood, taking the dog for a walk, totally different story. Not going to impede the sleep, but a high intensity exercise could.
I'm going to have 2 points with that, and I'm going to go back to the magnesium piece on this too.
Okay.
Let's start with magnesium. We talked about the supplementation. However, there are foods that naturally have magnesium in them that we can add to our diet or eating with dinner or nighttime caps, those things that will naturally give you magnesium if you're not able to get a supplementation. Pretty much dark leafy greens are going to be a great source. Salmon will typically have, depending on where you're buying the salmon, wild caught will have some of that naturally in there. And there's other foods that you can look up to naturally get some magnesium in there. However, we're talking intensity here, and with sleep in general, sometimes the time that you may work out, just like timing with food or with alcohol or any other things, could affect your sleep. Maybe going back to the shift work, maybe working out at night may affect your sleep because your heart rate may never be able to come down. Or on the flip side of that, if we're deficient in magnesium consumption, your body, depending on what you're doing, say you're just now on your journey and you're adding walking and you just haven't walked 30 to 45 minutes, or you haven't moved 5,000 to 6,000 steps in a day naturally, your body may be cramping up. And there's a handful of different vitamins, minerals that you could look at. However, in the past couple of months, I've really been diving deep in magnesium, and you and I joked about this. I've really doubled up on magnesium myself in what I'm asking my clients and athletes to do, especially my athletes. There's a lot of them that are cramping up and they just don't have any magnesium in their system at all. Most multivitamins don't have magnesium in there, or it's bare minimal, very small amount. So just adding a little bit into our diet naturally is going to help us with cramping or some kind of muscle fatigue, or what we talked about with the body composition piece is bone density. Keeping that bone density, we're not able to chip away with that. So making sure that we're able to protect ourselves long term is really what you have to look at. And again, it goes back to everybody's different. Depending on where you are in your journey, these are just some small things that you can make that can potentially be a long-term effect of your life and helping you.
Couple things, the diet, as you mentioned, some foods can tax the stomach. So eating high fat, fried, spicy foods can interact or affect your sleep negatively.
Yep.
So maybe having something small like a Greek yogurt, with some crackers or Greek yogurt and some nuts, something like that would be, or a protein shake would not affect. So some people will do that. So once again, individual based, but stay away from maybe the high fat, large fried, spicy foods, because that can impact your sleep. Alcohol, straight out of the book without reading alcohol, although alcohol can increase drowsiness and can facilitate sleep onset, it lightens and disrupts sleep as the body metabolizes it during the night. The body metabolizes alcohol at a rate of about 1 ounce per hour. Therefore, to avoid negative effects of alcohol in sleep, soldiers should consume no more than one drink 1 hour before bedtime, no more than two drinks 2 hours before bedtime, and so on and so forth. So, once again, like I still think that's too close to bedtime.
One, I think it goes back to one of your greatest analogies: good, better, best. Right?
Correct.
Like that's good.
Yeah.
Because that's our timing effect. However, what's better?
Yeah. So, once again, going back to like if you choose to drink, have it as early as possible, versus as a nightcap. That would be my recommendation to it. And for me, what I've seen, if I'm grilling food, fixing dinner, if I can have that bourbon with that, as I'm fixing dinner and then eat dinner, 6:30, time frame, then go to bed, 8:39, like perfect sleep, green the next day, no impacts.
Yep.
So,
and I think that it also with alcohol, this doesn't mean a blackout or memory loss. Sleep.
Yeah,
Like we have clients or athletes that we talk to, like, well, I had 10 to 12 drinks and I slept for 12 hours and it was amazing. I'm like, do you even know when you went to bed, or did we track your sleep? Like, no, Whoop was off. We missed.
Yeah.
Well, let's caveat this is written for military personnel, so they're telling you. I would like to think they're in a room and like, well, we got to tell them this. Like, well, we can't say you need to start have your drink at 5 or 6 because they're just not.
You're still on duty, right? Yes.
Or whatever. Like, if they're having 10 beers at 10 p.m., they're not going to tell you like, okay, have 2 at 6. No one's going to listen. They'll be like, okay, just have a little bit less or whatever.
Well, and generally speaking, military population, we know that alcohol is consumed.
Right.
Like that's
what I was going to say.
We're not going to try to shy away that people are not consuming alcohol, right?
Yeah.
I think it's what's the timing effect. And yes, you make a great point, Reno, that yes, we're not going to tell soldiers to drink at 5 or 6 p.m. because they may still be on duty in uniform, and we know that that is not allowed, and no one in uniform should be drinking during duty.
Well, and Reno doesn't drink. My best friend's a recovering alcoholic. Guys, like when you look at alcohol, I'll be the first one to say, like, it's just like, the first marathon, ran, or I can't remember his first marathon, or we've talked about this before. They basically consumed rat poison, right? Because it had a eugenic effect for a positive thing. Well, a small amount of alcohol could have a positive effect on different things, whether it's decreased stress, whether it's a lightened mood, whether it is things. But at a certain point, it is a poison. I want people, to understand that, right? But in the light of what I'm educating is, if you choose to have drinks, that is your choice. The earlier that you have them, given your body time to metabolize them, it's not going to affect your sleep.
And if you're 21 or older.
And if you're 21 or older, yes, my lawyer said that I need to say that.
Yes, legal age in America.
And that the podcast is for educational purposes only. We are not here to diagnose, treat any medical conditions.
We are not a healthcare professional in the alcoholic realm.
That is true.
According to the military, I am a healthcare professional. I don't know how. Oh, well, it's because I was on COVID orders.
You were a wellness coordinator, weren't you?
What? No, I don't know. But if you go into any of my military stuff, I am a healthcare provider.
Yeah.
And my wife's ID card says healthcare provider spouse.
Nice.
Ooh, healthcare provider you are. Last thing I want to say to this, before we can joke or do whatever, like, and hey, speaking of healthcare providers, if there is some issues with sleep, and I'm thinking like sleep apnea, I'm thinking about, really having sleep problems, like that is where you want to go see, a doctor that is going to specialize in that, right? Maybe have a sleep apnea test done, look at, whether it be medication or stuff, that is goes beyond the scope of sleep hygiene and putting these things into practice. Okay. So once again, want to make sure that like there is some issues that has reached that level, then consider looking at a medical professional, MD, doctor, to see what is going on and what are the options for that.
One, I think that's a great point too, that a lot of soldiers have been diagnosed with sleep apnea and we're able to get the sleep studies done. So if you have not, and you're in the service and you feel like you're having issues or your spouse is letting you know that you have issues, or maybe a friend with sleeping, those kind of things, those are some things that you can talk to as your provider or a VA rep, and you could potentially get a sleep study completed to be able to help you look at some of those things to make sure that we're able to breathe and do other things during sleep that we need to do and help some of these cycles out.
I know it's not an insurance podcast, but if your spouse will say to your doctor that it sounds like my spouse is choking while he's sleeping or like stops breathing at certain points during snoring, that's an immediate approval on TRICARE's forms for a either in-home sleep study or in a facility sleep study. So
Yeah, but I mean, and even if you're not in uniform or in the service and you're looking at that and you feel like you have that, there's no reason why. We kind of talked about with the DEXA or the body composition test, like you can go get these studies done, and whether insurance is able to cover it or you're wanting to do this on your own, this is just a great information to potentially help you figure out what may be bothering you or rendering you right with sleep
Yeah,
to
and
be able to help you get better.
well, and once again, for the listener, hey, this series is not just about the soldier. We're just taking the 5 domains, that is in our doctrine in FM-22. We're reading it and talking about it, right? It's just a great way to educate it. So yes, we're saying soldiers and Spartan. You guys are bringing in that, that aspect of it. But bottom line, for health, for anyone that is having, possible sleep apnea or anything, like, have it checked out, right? And once again, sleep is the lowest hanging fruit that you have the ability to control. But I also know that you're going to go through phases in life and seasons in life that you're not going to be able to get the optimal sleep, right? Maybe that's because you're, working 2 jobs. Maybe it's because you're going back to school, working a job. Maybe it's because of a newborn child. Maybe it's because of deadlines, travel. There are going to be times that you can't get it. That is totally fine. But what I don't want, and what I see often, especially in our younger population right now, or even in the older population, you're on your phone. You are staying up looking at, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever these,
yes,
I know it's my joke, right?
Yes.
TikTok, whatever these new things are, reading the news, getting in the rabbit holes on, political things and getting upset and all that stuff, like that you have a choice of. Okay. And as I always like to say, if you have an obstacle that continues to arise and you don't make a better choice from that obstacle, it's no longer an obstacle. It is a choice.
Yep.
You are choosing to be on your phone. You are choosing to go down that rabbit hole versus, to invest in your health and your wellness.
One, I think that, and even if you're not choosing, say you are in school or it is a job requirement, or you're doing something online that you have to do these things, and maybe the time constraint is there. Hopefully, it's a short term, or try to prioritize it to only be a short term thing, to where it doesn't affect you long term, to be able to keep that routine and be able to make a positive change for yourself.
Awesome. All right, guys and gals, thank you for listening. Keep chasing your goals this year. We hope everyone's year is off to a great start, and we will see you guys next time.
see you.